Dublin 118, Monaghan 17 points. A massive, massive win for Dublin football to get over the line, to get 2 points on the board. Come on. We are back, baby. We are not. We are not back because there's a lot to delve into in terms of this game. And look, obviously, we play Kerry next and they'll probably absolutely batter us. The fact they didn't win today as well is probably actually a bad thing for us because they probably need the points now. But look, happy with the victory. It was a weird game. It was a strange game, to be honest with you. The first half would nearly cure a hangover. It was that bad. It would put you to sleep. Like, it was 7 points apiece. It was very bad stuff from both teams. Both teams just didn't know where the goal was. I mean, the amount of chances Monaghan missed in this game. I mean, fair play to Hugh O'Sullivan. Made some big saves, and I thought had a very good game. I thought he was far better in terms of kickouts than Evan Comerford. I thought he was quicker in terms of his kickouts. He was able to spot the free players as well, and I thought we did a lot better in regards to that. But yeah, like, Monaghan had so many chances. The chances they hit wide as well. Like, at the start of the second half, they had another one late on as well. Like, yeah, like, Monaghan were probably nearly the better team at certain points. I thought it was quite even at different stages, but there was a moment where Monaghan went 12 points to 8 up, and you're thinking, this is looking quite bleak, and this is very, very bad from a Dublin perspective. You're kind of looking at some of the big Dublin players and thinking, you know, where are some of our big players? Where no attempts at 2-pointers, I think, up until Con actually scored one in the 52nd minute. But it was in the final 20 minutes, the final 15 minutes where we pulled away, and, you know, championship kind of quarter, as they call it, you know, the final kind of 10, 15 minutes, and we pressed up on Rory Beggan's kickouts, and we got huge joy. And in particular, I think the substitutes who came on for Dublin, I think, deserve massive credit. I think Joe Quigley gets the goal, outstanding, big moment for him. I believe his debut as well, or maybe his first appearance at Croke Park, so absolutely huge. Greg McEnany as well, I thought was outstanding when he came on. Padara Byrne as well. I think the substitutes were massive because we started to dominate the midfield. We started to win the battles in and around the middle, which was absolutely huge. And yeah, you know, Con O'Callaghan, look, thank God for Con O'Callaghan. Where would we be without this man? Some of the 2-pointers he scored was absolutely phenomenal. 8 points in total. He was absolutely outstanding, and a huge game from his perspective. But look, as a few people are saying in the comments there, and we will get onto it, look, it was far from perfect from Dublin. It certainly doesn't mean that Dublin are out of the woods. You know, looking at the performance overall, there would still be a lot I'd be worried about because, look, it was decent in the last 10, 15 minutes, but I think probably against maybe 5 or 6 of, you know, maybe 4 or 5 of the other teams in this division, they would have put us away. You know, they absolutely would have put us away. They would have taken those goal opportunities, those goal chances. Some of the nature of the goal chances as well were very worrying. The amount of times we were getting caught on kickouts from Rory Beggan, where we would have 2-3 players going for the one ball. We would all miss it, and then it would just, you know, all of a sudden be a Monaghan player running straight through, and it was a little bit worrying. You know, they were cutting straight through us. And Monaghan will be absolutely kicking themselves. There's no doubt about it. The Monaghan fans, when they look back at this game, they will say that they left this behind them, and I do get that, to be fair, because there were 4 points up at one point. There were 12 points to 8 up at one stage. Dublin then pulled it back, and we were 13-12 up, and then Monaghan kicked on again and actually went 16-13 up. But then again, we managed to kind of pull through it and turn it around. And look, I do think the substitutes were massive in regards to doing that. Kieran Kilkenny scored 2 points, but overall, I thought had quite a poor game, to be honest with you. I thought it was just too much keep ball, to be honest with you, and too much. At times watching Dublin, it was like we were trying to play the same way as we did under Desi, the same kind of passing it around and, you know, high percentage football. Like, that's all gone now. Do you know what I mean? And that was a little bit concerning. But look, from a Monaghan perspective, you would look at Aaron Kerry, who I thought had a good game. Desi Ward was causing us all sorts of problems as well. His overlapping runs, we could not deal with him whatsoever. And in the end, we pulled through it with the goal from Joe Quigley. Look, it is worth mentioning, we did have goal chances ourselves as well. You know, we hit the bar twice. We hit the post a couple of times. Monaghan actually hit the post as well. I think the post might have been clipped about 5 or 6 times in this game. It was a little bit odd, to be honest with you. Maybe a bit of a throwback to Dublin Mayo 2017 when the ball kept, you know, hitting the post at the start of that game. And yeah, that was a little bit unusual, but look, we dug deep, we got the win, and it's a little bit of pressure off Jerry Brennan, slightly, I think. Look, in terms of Kerry next, look, if we lose that game, fair enough, but I just want us to put up a fight. I want us to battle, and I want us to exploit some of the weaknesses that we even seen within Kerry today. You know, Kerry ended the game very sluggishly, you would say, versus Galway. Dublin ended this game very strongly, so that's going to be something interesting to watch out for. And if we remember, Dublin came back against Kerry in almost a similar way to what Galway did today as well, so that's absolutely worth considering. There's loads of comments flying in here, so we will dig deep here now. Ryan says Dublin win on Monaghan's own downfall. Gavin says thought Monaghan were just about better until the goal. Dublin kicked on, but overall very slow game. Yeah, look, I think Monaghan were maybe marginally better, but I don't think it was the best version of Monaghan necessarily. And I don't think it was I don't think Monaghan were miles better necessarily. They were maybe marginally a bit better, but it did feel like the game was there for either side to step up. And look, we stepped up, and in the end we got the job done. Gaelic Ice is really poor game. Can't see either of them staying up. Yeah, it's kind of, it's, look, we have a chance now, I would say, but it's going to be tough. It is going to be tough still. There's no question in regards to that. Lots of goal chance for both teams. Fair play to Dublin, pushed on after the goal. Monaghan, the better side, but struggled to see it out. Gavin says Monaghan were solid in the first half against Roscommon. They were a lot better overall today, but it seems they will still go down, but with more of a fight. Aidan says, how was the weather in Croker? I wasn't at the game, with it being Valentine's and all that, but from looking outside, because I don't live too far from Croke Park, very rainy, but the wind, I don't think the wind was maybe as strong as Kerry Galway. But then again, Meath Loud had a big swing in the second half, so interesting there. Mikey says Monaghan's only hope now is that other teams start pull the brakes when they come to town. Possibly. And Monaghan do actually have a few of the big boys towards the end, so that could be crucial. Gavin says Beggan got caught the last day, so I wonder was it best he stayed in goal today, or if he went out more, that would have helped Monaghan more. Do you know what? For a game like this, I think it would have helped Monaghan, because I don't think we would have had the quickness in terms of counter-attack to punish Rory Beggan. And it was strange that he sort of reverted to type today and didn't do what he usually does. Yeah, fair enough. It didn't work versus Roscommon and in that particular occasion versus St. Bridget's, but majority of the time it does work. And I think for this type of game where Dublin were very slow in possession up until probably the 55th minute, they could have taken more of an advantage there. They could have kicked more 2-pointers. In terms of 2-pointers, I think they only got one in the game, and I think it was Rory Beggan's free. I'm not too sure if they had any others on the game. Just having a quick flick through. Maybe Desi Ward got one looking at it here on Score BO. So that could have been huge in terms of the game. But yeah, Ryan says Dubs going down. It's going to be hard. I do think, I think away to Roscommon, I think Galway on the final day, Galway might be turning their attention to other things. I still give us a chance. Still think we'll be, I do think we will stay up personally. But there is a lot to improve on. There's no question in regards to that. Can't see Monaghan making it out alive in this division. It's going to be very difficult now for Monaghan. It's going to be very, very difficult. You will be looking. I know they play Mayo at the end of the league. Maybe Mayo are already safe or something like that and don't really have anything to play for. So maybe that might help Monaghan, but we'll see. Ryan says awful small crowd. Yeah, it didn't really look like there was much there, to be fair. I mean, with the weather as well, I don't really blame a lot of people for, I didn't go to the game personally, so, I decided to skip this one. But, I don't really blame a lot of people for not going to this, to be honest. Dennis says here, Monaghan seemed to be able to walk through our defence while we struggled to get by theirs. It wasn't until we scored when they lost confidence and you could see it coming back. Yeah, kind of just... the spring in our step was a little bit back. We were controlling the game well. We were very good at seeing the game out. because look, a lot of those, you do forget there is still experienced players within that Dublin team, and I think that's when Dublin are nearly at their best, keeping the ball and slowing things down. We're kind of used to doing that, but the problem is we were doing that when we were losing, and you were kind of looking for something to happen and 2-pointers. And to be fair, I think the big turning point really was Con O'Callaghan's 2-pointer on the 52nd minute. I think we really kicked on really after that moment. That was a huge moment. But there we go. Ryan says shooting from both teams horrendous. Yeah, like I've seen a stat from our good friend, the Gaelic Statsman, and it was 36% possession or 36% shooting wise from Dublin in the first half. And actually looking at it overall on our good friend Gaelic Statsman on Instagram there, like Dublin had 48% shooting accuracy. They're like, that's very bad, isn't it? Monaghan had 41%. Dublin scored 17 of 35 shots, 14 from the 32 from play. Monaghan scored 15 out of the 36 from play, out of the 36 overall, and 12 from 32. Like that is very bad, isn't it? That's not particularly great. Looking at it there, so yeah, absolutely, Dublin should be a little bit concerned in regards to that. Gavin says second season syndrome seems to be happening with Monaghan. Happened under Vinnie Corey as well. Yeah, it does seem to be the case there. Ryan says home advantage could be key for us. Roscommon game is very crucial, and it's in Roscommon too. It is. I would just hang the hat that we have a good record against the Rossies. That's kind of something I'm looking towards there. I think we could look at Roscommon. Look, there's no doubt Roscommon will look at that game though as well, and they'll be thinking we can win that game. They'll be absolutely feeling confident going into that as well. But that absolutely is a game. And look, against Kerry, if you lose the game, fair enough, but just don't get hiding, because score difference could be important. You just don't know. So there we go. Bannigan second year and hasn't beaten a Division 1 side in his time. Yeah, that is a fair point. In fairness, just running through some of the scores here, looking at the Monaghan scores then. First of all here, as we can see, Aaron Kerry with 3 points there. Micheál Bannigan with 3 points as well. Desi Ward, Ryan McInespy with a point. Andrew Woods with a point as well, but he missed some big chances, didn't he? They got a good spread of scores in fairness to them, as we can see on the screen there. Screenshot taken from Scorbio. I'm sure most people have heard of them by now, but if you haven't, check them out if you can. And looking at it from a Dublin perspective there, like again, yeah, Con O'Callaghan was absolutely brilliant. Sean Bugler was effective, but Luke Brecknock, I think, as I was saying there before, was cut off as always. Luke Brecknock wasn't as effective as previous games, but still scored a point and still had a bit of impact in the game. In fairness, there. Looking at some comments here, Gaelic Guy, Roscommon started strong, could overturn Dubs. Yeah. Ryan says Andrews at a Aidan O'Shea on a 30-meter free. Yeah, there was some bizarre misses, wasn't there? There was another one that Dublin missed in the first half as well. Like there was some absolutely strange ones there. Gavin says Gary Mohan is German Murtagh's brother-in-law. Thought he was a good worker for Monaghan in the last 2 games. That's an interesting point there. But look, overall from a Dublin perspective, you certainly wouldn't be getting carried away with this victory. It could be Dublin's only victory of the league. Who knows? There's certainly a lot to improve on. You would be a little bit concerned that it took 50 minutes for Dublin to kind of click into gear, because you won't get that luxury against other teams. The Mayo game was dead and buried at that stage. I know we were down to 14 men, but it was more or less done and dusted. And it was kind of actually similar in the Mayo game when Paddy Small gets a goal. We kind of stepped it up a little bit towards the end. So yeah, a little bit of concern there. I think that's definitely something for Gerard Brennan to work on. But look, I was impressed with Hugh O'Sullivan in terms of our own kickouts. We had a few worries with Rory Beggins, but I thought we did all right on our own. And yeah, I thought the substitutes were huge as well. Like as I said, I think Patrick O'Cufford Byrne made a big impact. Killian McGuinness, Greg McEnany, Joe Quigley, like all them lads were very, very impressive. And I think they have to now have put their hand up to come into the team in the next game. And it is in Croke Park. So you would say that would favour us a little bit, but I don't really know. Probably. But then again, look, Kerry will be licking their lips at how poor we were defensively as well. So there we go. But look, we're going to hit the like button. We're going to hit the like button. No, you're going to hit the like button and subscribe if you could. We're going to end it there. Do let me know your thoughts, your opinions on this game in particular. Huge win for Dublin. We absolutely take it. And Liverpool are winning as well. So do you know what? I'm on the beer. See you later, lads.